Hello there, welcome back into our live coverage here on Signing Day presented by Jimmy John's and American Family Insurance. I am Steve Montoya with National Football Editor Steve Spiewak, and we are now joined by Coach John Fiore of Montclair High School. Hi Coach, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Coach, signing day always brings a certain number of surprises. You have a young man, defensive end Darius Slade, who everybody expected to sign with Michigan State today. Not so. So what's the latest with Darius, and can you kind of break down that situation for us?
Darius's recruitment's been a long process, and Darius has two cousins. One that plays for the Miami Dolphins, Jared Odrick, who played at Penn State for Larry Johnson. And the other is Julian Pinnock-Odrick, who plays at Rutgers for Kyle Flood. And Darius wanted to make his own mark. So those two schools really didn't have an opportunity to get his services. He wanted to be in the Big Ten. He loved Narduzzi in the defense at Michigan State. I mean, with the Rose Bowl, what's not to love? And, that's where he was signed. He burbled to after he decommitted from Nebraska, knowing that's where he wanted to go. And then in the last couple of weeks with Larry Johnson moving to Ohio State, Darius felt he could have maybe possibly the best of both worlds, play for Larry Johnson and play for a quality program like Ohio State. So he hasn't taken his visit yet to Ohio State. We haven't been able to get our ducks in a row there. So he's scheduled to visit on the 14th. And, Urban Meyer has extended him that grace period and that time to figure it out. However, I am on my way into school right now to meet Darius and his family because they want to discuss some things. So I don't know if things are going to change in the next hour. They possibly can. But as of right now, he's going to go on an official visit on the weekend of the 14th and make his decision after that. And let's face it, it's not a bad decision to have. Ohio State, Michigan State, two quality programs coached by some great guys.
Now, Coach, Darius had a monster season for you. The last 2 years, he's recorded 37 total sacks. Tell us, what kind of player will Ohio State or Michigan be receiving in Darius?
Well, Darius is still hasn't hit the ceiling yet. His potential is unlimited. You're getting a high-motor kid who has a knack to get into the quarterback, but he can also play the run. He's a selfless, one of the most unselfish players I've coached. To take on double teams versus wing teams so the linebackers can get tackled. He does that. But he was real raw when we got him 2 years ago, and he's also benefited from his friendship and his teammate Austin Stevens, who's going to Boston College, who signed this morning with them. So Austin would get in there and the kid would turn around to try to scramble the other way, and that's not good when you have Darius on the other side.
Hey Coach, we really appreciate you joining us. We wish you the best success down the road. Congratulations on your recent success, and thanks again for joining us.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, that's Coach John Fiore, and we may talk to him again later if anything updates, but it seems like he's got a tough choice ahead of him there, and those two schools he's trying to select.
It's really interesting, Steve, because Malik McDowell picked Michigan State, and some people thought he was going to sign today with Ohio State, and now we have a guy who was expected to sign with Michigan State and now could end up at Ohio State. So a little bit of some moving parts still in the Big Ten, but he's a guy, like Coach Fiore said, 6'5", 240 with a motor. A lot of guys want him. So,
yeah. All right. Well, our guy Chris Stonebreaker is now going to join us in the War Room. He's going to be talking about who's in, who's out of some of the bigger colleges. So let's toss it to Chris right now in the War Room.
Hey, I am here in the War Room right next to senior writer Mitch Stevens as he just churns out the stories throughout signing day. Colleague and senior writer Kevin Asklin on Monday actually released a great piece on who's in and who's out for the BCS teams. When the season ends, fans wonder who fills the spots vacated by those graduating or leaving for the pros. Florida State won the national title, ending the SEC's reign, but their defense takes a hit, and Winston will be without wide receiver Kelvin Benjamin. Hopefully, wide receiver Travis Rudolph and Cardinal Newman of West Palm Beach in Florida can fill the large void, and five-star running back recruit Dalvin Cook from Central High in Miami really add to the running game. Now, each and every one of the 12 BCS teams actually are covered in this article by Kevin Asklin on who's in and who's out this upcoming year, who they lost, who they're gaining during signing day, which is today. And of course, you guys back in the studio know exactly that today is signing day. And back to you guys.
Hey, thanks, Chris. A lot of good stuff there from Chris. We'll be hitting him up much more down the road. Now, some breaking news just came into to our studios as we're following along, and the rich got richer.
Alabama has landed a commitment from five-star linebacker Rashawn Evans out of, get this, Auburn High School. Guy playing in Auburn, Alabama, has signed to the Crimson Tide. That's how you know you got it good, Steve, when you're Nick Saban and you are landing five-star kids from the city of Auburn and from Auburn High School. To pull a kid out of Auburn, I mean, that's a huge accomplishment. Most people expected him to sign with Auburn. The 24/7 crystal ball overwhelmingly in favor of Auburn. I think when they held the ceremony at Auburn High School, I think the vibe there was probably one of a hometown kid expected to go on and play for the hometown Tigers. And that is not the case, and that's not an easy thing to do when you're in an auditorium full of Auburn residents and most Auburn fans.
Yeah.
To sit up there and to put on the Crimson Tide hat and say, I'm going to spend the next 4 years playing for the Crimson Tide. So a huge commitment. I don't think there's any way that anybody can surpass Alabama as the number one ranked team recruiting class in the 24/7 rankings now with the addition of Evans. So huge get for the Crimson Tide. It's somewhat surprising, but in reality, is anything surprising now when Alabama has a recruiting victory? They are just rolling right along, and the Tide continues to roll.
Yeah, I was just following along with Barton Simmons from the 24/7 Sports Crew. He basically said that about ties up Alabama winning the number one spot. Not too surprising, like you said, but that's a great addition for them. All right, we're going to take another little break here on MaxPreps. This is our live signing day show brought to you by Jimmy John's and American Family Insurance.